Alright, today we're going to walk through Baylor versus Oklahoma State, and in particular Baylor on offense, how they essentially went to various forms of ball screen usage over and over and over again, and why it worked for them sometimes and didn't work for other times. Let's go. Alright, the first one we're looking at is as this ball gets reset, we're going to see the ball screen come from down here. And a big part is if Baylor was able to make good contact on the ball screen and allowing guards to get downhill, they had a lot of success. So he just gets a slight edge. Big has to go with 21 because he represents a threat and just an easy finish at the rim. A couple possessions later, and this actually represents what they went to a lot more later in the game, is that you notice how he switched the sides of the ball screen to make sure he could get contact because he was trying to defend it and force him to go the opposite direction. That allows him to get this step, and it gives 21 time to get downhill, and again, an easy finish at the rim. Relatively easy finish. I realize he missed it, but that's still an easy finish. Again, we can see a similar concept here. We see original ball screen set, and then he switches it immediately. This allows him to create contact. He gets stuck on the screen a little bit, downhill, and again, another open look at the rim. Then we're going to go to our first evolution of this. Okay, so Baylor comes, flips the screen again, gets downhill. Okay, 23 at this point has seen 10 make about 6 layups, so he's going to try and adjust slightly, which means that you're giving something up. Okay, so this means he steps up, and 21 is open for an easy dunk as well. And the third evolution. So Baylor comes up, sets the ball screen, gets good contact, okay, gets downhill. Both players seem to be in relatively good position. Notice, as this is occurring, 5, we're watching, takes a couple steps this direction. He's like, maybe I can help with 15 as he rolls right here. But this is a good shooter over here in the corner. Number 4 drains a 3. Then we go to the next evolution, which is what Oklahoma State tried to cancel with, not Ohio State. Okay, so Oklahoma State, 1, does ice, where they aggressively force from the sideline. Okay, the difference here is the place where they're having help is from the side that is A, across the court, and B, there's 2 defenders instead of just 1 defender as we saw last time. Okay, so the help comes down a little bit. He's just like, just in case 15 rolls. The skip pass happens, but because this is a longer pass, it means that it's easier to close out to this shooter instead of last time where it was a shorter pass. Over the course of the game, Oklahoma State actually experienced quite a bit of success with this. As this ball screen comes, he comes to this side. Make sure you can't use the ball screen. There's no contact getting downhill. He's able to stay attached. 23 essentially is able to just stop this drive as it's happening. And 15 is in no man's land. As if he is a shooter, it's a different problem. But if he's just rolling, then it's not a huge threat. And it essentially stops the action before it begins and allows them just to play regular defense. So then Baylor needed to find an adjustment to be able to get into their ball screen without it being hampered by this ice. So we can see immediately 2's kind of in a good position here. But this is the simplest concept that Baylor does that it works pretty well, right? He just fakes like he's going to drive to the left. That's all he does. And 2, the defender has to respect that. So he has to move a little bit towards preventing the rim essentially, which means that you have more space to be able to use this ball screen. He just gets caught with it slightly and another good shot at the rim. Next possession down for Baylor, they do the same concept just with more intricate behind it. So this motion up top, the guards rotating, just simply means that the defense doesn't know which one is actually going to set the screen. Baylor's the only one that does. So as this screen comes up, 12 is behind because of all this motion where they're running back and forth. So 12 has to stay even with him, worried about him cutting, etc. And so he's slightly behind, which means you're able to make contact on the ball screen and again get downhill, which is exactly what they want. To either force the big to commit to you and lead to an open shot, or you get a look at the rim. Jumping to the second half, this is almost the exact same concept that we just saw. If we get the guards moving around, dribble handoffs up top, don't know when it's coming, there's contact with the screen, allows you to get downhill, force the big to react, pick somebody, and then you finish if they don't pick you. Then towards the end of the game, we can see that the Baylor was struggling quite a bit. A team, frankly, they should be quite a bit better than, and they're losing 2 with 3 minutes to go. And so they went to, I would almost call this like the brute force method, which is simply if you can't stop them from preventing one of your ball screens, just run 2 ball screens. And I honestly am not the hugest fan of this because I think the defense, once they realize it's coming, is relatively easy to react. But this situation, it works exactly as intended. 10 gets downhill. 23 still has to worry about 21, and it's a decent shot at the rim. And this possession right here, so Baylor's down by 4, and the critical situation here for Baylor. This is why I think it doesn't really work on offense, because once you have just someone set the screen, 5 gets caught, but the other big just picks up the one that's rolling. Like, he just tags them, and because they're essentially able to guard 2 players right here, it's not a huge threat. But this is the example that I think cost Oklahoma State the game right here. Okay, so the entire time, they've been either icing, so forcing the ball handler to go the other way, or going over the top to make sure the Baylor doesn't get any open threes. In this situation, he goes underneath once. Number 10 realizes this and says, yep, give me that again. What does he do? Goes underneath, just stops behind the screen, and shoots an open 3. And not only that, these are so hard because you close out at the last minute, your feet get underneath, and it's an and one. A crucial mistake at this point in the game. So then we move into overtime. We can see the final installation of what Baylor did using ball screens. So here, what's the thing is Oklahoma State's not quite expecting it because they're expecting the ball screen to happen from the point guard up here. Instead, they just set a ball screen essentially in tight right here when they're not quite ready for it, not able to ice it, and you're in the middle of the court, so it makes it harder to ice it. Makes it so you're essentially playing on 2-on-2. Any contact whatsoever is going to put 23 the big in a huge disadvantage, and it leads to an open shot for Baylor. And finally, we get to the conclusion of the game, and Baylor was able to win this game despite it being a very, very tough and competitive game. Great game to watch. Super interesting to watch the different layers of ball screen usage that Baylor had. So one thing I'll be curious to see in the future is, will Baylor go to this no matter what? Will there be some team that'll shut essentially the ball screen down very effectively? Maybe a team that switches everything. I don't know. Be curious to see that in the future. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.